What's going on, everybody? It's your boys Bill and Pablo out here. Obviously, I'm Pablo. On the other side, that's Bill. And we got a couple things to get into. It's my favorite time of year this year. It's the NFL playoffs. We had a whole slate of games yesterday. Loving the Super Wildcard weekend when we have three games in back-to-back days. I really think that's beneficial for the NFL. There was a lot of interesting stuff that happened yesterday on that football field.
Let's talk about the biggest shocker of yesterday, Seahawks losing to the Rams. We all expected it to be a close game, but I don't think anybody expected the Rams to put up 30 points on them. With Goff coming back from his thumb injury, battling through that. And of course, nobody expected Cam Akers to go for 130 yards. That was a big surprise. And I don't think I thought we all thought that Goff, especially I did, I know. I thought Goff would be the one making that mistake, like a fumble or a pick or something. I did not expect that Russell Wilson. I don't want to fully put that pick six on him,
Mm,
although he did make a bad read, but the wide receiver who was supposed to brush off that defender made absolutely zero effort,
mm-hmm,
like very little effort to try to actually like block him. And he shot right through that gap between the two and went the
mm-hmm.
other way for a pick six. Seattle, I think the biggest thing was they were just trying to rely too much on Russell Wilson. That's why he threw for way more. He had way more passing opportunities compared to Goff. While both of the running backs, Cam Akers was only averaging about 4.6 or 4.7 yards per carry. No, 3.7 or 3.8. Sorry. Uh, Compared to Carson, who was actually averaging zero point 0.1 more yards per carry, but they didn't really stick with the run. I think they were really after that pick six. It kind of threw their game plan off balance, and then just kind of try to put it on Rush's shoulders, which he couldn't really get it done at the end of the day. 170 yards in a playoff, if you're considered one of the top QBs in the league, a top three to top five QB. That's not that kind of performance is not acceptable. Along with a pick six on top of that. So I think Russell Wilson really came up small yesterday, and Jared Goff actually played better than I expected. I expected him to have at least one turnover, but I think McVay on that end did a very good job with the play selection, quick throws, get the ball out of his hands, just run the ball consistently to keep Seahawks off balance and keep the game pretty much out of Jared Goff's hands. I think that's pretty much how it ended up being. What were your biggest takeaways from yesterday's Seahawks Rams? Biggest shocker?
I think I think we're a little bit aligned. We were talking on Friday about how I was talking about how it was I how I didn't see the Rams offense being capable of scoring enough to be able to get out of Seattle with a W. And that was, of course, expecting that John Wolford was going to be the full-time quarterback that entire game. I actually think that the injury to Wolford, as harsh as it sounds, was a blessing in disguise for the Rams, even though Jared Goff was playing with a broken thumb and it was evident on some passes. The way that he let the football go was a little bit awkward, and sometimes you could see that was clearly influencing his pass trajectory. I think it was a blessing in disguise because Jared Goff being more familiar with that offense and the coaching staff being a little bit more familiar with that offense, it forced them to kind of adjust on the fly, and so of course uh, keep their game plan of relying on the running game, and that worked out to perfection. So as you said, they did a really good job of kind of keeping the ball out of Jared Goff's hands in terms of crucial plays in the game. He didn't commit he didn't have that backbreaking turnover that you were talking about, like uh, the Seattle offense did. So I think it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Cam Akers, though, I mentioned how he wasn't even in like the top 30, top 25 in rushing yards through the entire season. He went off. He went off against that Seattle Seahawks defense yesterday, and that's more an indictment on the Seattle defense, which I brought up that even though they had been playing better as of late, I wasn't entirely convinced. I still think that their defense is suspect. They have playmakers at certain positions, but I think overall as a unit, they're very uninspiring. They can be exploited, they can be had. And I think yesterday was almost entirely reliant because of their limitations at QB with either Jared Goff or John Wolford is almost entirely reliant on a successful running game. Cam Akers looked like Todd Gurley out there, and that's what really opened up the game and allowed, I think, the Rams to open up the playbook and to be able to score all those points. I think if they don't have as much success in the running game, I don't think that offense looks as productive as it did yesterday. I think the Rams defense is legit. They're the best defense in the NFL for a reason. And they gave Russell Wilson headaches, man. They gave Russell Wilson a lot more than he can handle, even with those playmakers on the outside. That also leads to another point that I thought about while watching the game yesterday is that Seattle's run game needs to get a lot better. For as good as Russell Wilson is, and I still think that he's one of the top quarterbacks in this game, despite what he's looked like near the tail end of the season and what he looked like yesterday. I still think that Russell Wilson is one of the top QBs in the game. Um, maybe the first 5 weeks of the season were him at his peak, as best as he can play. But I think if you surround him, they would need to surround him with a stronger running game and just a little bit of a better defense for him to be actually uh, for them to be able to take the next step as a team and for them to be actual Super Bowl contenders. I think they have a lot of soul searching to do in Seattle this offseason. Again, because of the run game that I just mentioned, because of the suspect defense, and because of the fact that they have very little high-end draft capital as a result of the Jamal Adams trade. How are you actually going to get better on the cheap if you don't have a first-round pick coming up this year or next year because of the Jamal Adams trade? So I think they do have some soul searching to do. Pete Carroll has been there for a long time. I'm not saying that it's time to move on from him yet, but you do have to maybe look around and see if things are getting a little bit stale, and you have to kind of see where the vision is for the very near future. Russell Wilson has been in the league a long time, and quarterback prime years, you can't afford to waste them. So I think Seattle has a lot of questions to answer this offseason, and they have to be entrenched in win now mode from here on out. And so it's hard for me to envision them to making a significant improvement. But that was kind of my biggest takeaways, is that Seattle isn't quite there, despite Russell Wilson's excellence the majority of the season. Again, the Rams D really shut him down, and the Rams offense did enough in the running game to really be able for them to hit on all cylinders. Do I believe in the Rams long term? I believe in the defense, and I think if you're able to keep a lot of teams, to 13, 20 points, the offense might be able to do just enough to walk out of games with W's. I think that game against Green Bay, we're going to see what Aaron Rodgers is really about, coming off what presumably is going to be his third MVP season. Now he's got his biggest challenge, and it's going to be, unstoppable force versus an immovable object. I also think we got to talk about whether or not Aaron Donald is going to be completely healthy, even though the Rams won the game handedly and the defense did its job for the majority of the game. I think I think they felt his absence on the series that he wasn't there. So, that's obviously going to be a big factor moving forward. But as well as they played, and, I think the offense called a great game. My biggest question marks are towards Seattle. I think you got to look at this one and done, and you got to look at the season as almost as a failure, just because of how well they were playing early on, and the expectations that are at a ball club when you have such an elite QB and elite playmakers on offense.
See, I'll kind of agree with you halfway there. I don't think their running game is actually that bad as you're making it seem like. They're actually running the
Well,
ball,
it's
as I
not.
mentioned.
It's not that I'm saying
No,
that it's bad. I just think that if you really want to take the next step as a team, Russell Wilson needs more of a reliant running game. I just think they're very, very
I
inconsistent
think
game to game.
I
So
just
it's
think they need a back who can actually stay healthy, because that's been their biggest issue. Chris Carson, although he's good, and he was actually averaging, as I said yesterday, more yards per carry than Cam Akers was,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but he just gets injured too often. Every season he misses close
A
to
significant
almost
amount of
half the
time. Yeah.
season.
Yep. Significant amount of time.
So that's when they have, like this year, I think they were down to their fourth back at one point,
Mm-hmm.
because literally everybody was injured. It's
Just
kind of
depleted.
unlucky in
Just
it.
depleted.
It is kind of unlucky in a way, but they did have everybody. But I think their defense is really where they need to kind of work on. I don't know how confident I feel about the Rams. I guess they were lucky. They had familiarity factor with the Seahawks, and being a division rival of their third matchup this season. So like McVay had figured some things out, and they were executed to a good point during the game. But I don't know how well they will do against the Green Bay Packers going to Lambeau.
Wow, that
That'll
defense is
be
legit.
a defense can be legit, but I don't think Jared Goff's going to magically heal his thumb in a week. Jared Goff does commit some mistakes, and I don't know if I like the long term future of the Rams either, but they do have a very, very good defense, which give nightmares to most people, you know. Uh, but
How do
they
you
are
how do yeah, how do you expect they'll fare against Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau?
that's something we'll talk about later. But I think the way Chris Carson was able to run, I think Aaron Jones can also run, and I think they will actually stick with the running game in that cold weather, and Aaron Rodgers won't be throwing. Well, I thought I said the same thing about Russell Wilson, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers will be throwing a pick six, to put him in a hole where they have to kind of panic and then just be like, all right, let's just throw it every time, which works into Rams' hands at that point, especially in that cold weather.
Hey guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. If you think that Bill really has to do some work on his opinion pieces, let him know in the comments. It's been your boy Pablo. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Peace.